Hello again, everybody. Happy Monday. How are you all? I hope you're doing really, really well. Beautiful weekend. I hope you all had a wonderful Monday, new beginning for the new week, new opportunities, new awesome things, and Magic Monday with that BRICE.
We need a theme song for Magic Mondays. We need like a jazzy little intro.
Exactly, we do. Model. I
Because
think
I
we
always
need,
have so much
we
fun
need
with you
to learn
guys. This is my favorite days of the week. Who would ever have thought in the old system, who would ever thought Monday would be my favorite day of the week? But it always is because I get to come hang out with my friends and talk about weird stuff and with our audience who are also our friends and hear their input on these topics, these strange topics that we find ourselves following the rabbit hole, and truth is definitely stranger than fiction. So
well, I am so grateful that you are now on our every Magic Monday, because whether you subscribe to the things we talk about or not, um, that's not the point, right? The point is that it's information. And it's always good to know whether you agree with things or not, despite what your opinions on history or anything like that might be, it's happened. No one can change the past, not even God. But
yeah.
we can change our perception of the past, for example, and we can look at things and say, I don't agree, or I love that, or whatever. But history is all of ours. We can never deny that. And if stuff existed and things were done, then it's good to know about these things, because I think in so many instances, very often, it's like suddenly a piece of the puzzle just gets filled by listening to one or two of these stories, and suddenly it makes sense as to maybe something you heard when you were a kid, or something you heard last week, or anything like that. It's just like, it's wonderful to be able to understand and get a deeper understanding of what went on before we were even around, and
Yes.
also in the other realms, right? I mean, I think it's clear now there's not just one species that called human beings that exist on this entire and in this entire multiverse. I mean,
Yeah.
we have to understand there's a lot more going on, and it's
Yeah.
just wonderful to
Well,
know what.
that one of my favorite quotes is from Aristotle, and it is a sign of an intelligent mind when you can entertain an idea without accepting it. And
Exactly.
I think that's what I do a lot. Even when I present these stories, some of the time my opinion isn't even set myself. I'm just presenting what I've found. And it's an ever evolving change of information depending on what more we find, right? And so it's literally because we know it, as they say we have our history books, and the controllers, have their history books, and they're different. And so the three of us have access to the same information people watching do, and so we're literally working together to try to figure out what their history book says,
Yeah,
because it's not what ours said. And so that's what we're doing, and that's why I love that you guys do this live. I love that the our friends watching right now can type things in that they might pick up on something that the three of us didn't notice, or they know something we don't know. I mean, that's literally the whole Ram Dass quote that I love. We are all just walking each other home. That's what this means. We're working together to figure out like what the truth is. But before we get into this, I wasn't even planning on bringing this up this morning, but I was speaking to a friend before I got on, and I wanted to ask you guys this. Speaking of the multiverse and angels and off-worlders and all these different like spirit guides and entities that are constantly around us that we can't really see in our waking existence, the church calls it guardian angels. We know that the veil is thinning, and so we're starting to see things that we didn't see before. Well, I'm not a stranger to weird dreams. I have to lock my bedroom door every night because I have the propensity to just sleepwalk. So like, I'm not a stranger to having batshit crazy dreams. However, this past week, I have been having these dreams with these three other people, humanoids. They don't look like humans, that I've never seen in my life. One is this really tall black guy. So like, but he's like, his body is almost insect like. And his face kind of looks like a gray's face, but it's not a gray. He's definitely benevolent. He's not, and he's got blue lips. And with him is this like shorter, like almost Oompa Loompa looking white guy. And then there's an older lady. And these last few nights, I've been having these dreams where they're like sitting down and talking to me. And it's almost very neutral. They're benevolent. They're good. But they keep telling me, like, you can do this. We're not going to let anything happen to you. You have to be brave. Nothing's going to happen to you. And the black guy showed me in a dream, like all these times in my life where nothing bad had happened to me because they were there. And I just kind of assumed that maybe these were some of my guides, but I didn't say anything. But then my friend was talking to me this morning and was like, I've been having these strange dreams with these people that I don't recognize. And they're telling me things. And I was like, that's so weird. And I said, I'm the same. And actually, after we had this conversation, I was doing my makeup to come on. And I asked, because the black guy, the insect looking black guy, is like the main one that speaks to me. And so I was putting my makeup on. I was like, if you're one of my guides, what's your name? And I immediately got hit with the name Orwin. And so I just wanted to share that. People watching probably think I'm a freak now, but let me know if you guys have been having like crazy dreams like that with perhaps your guides are coming through and talking to you.
A long time ago, we've understood you're a bit of a freak. That's why we love you on this channel. Okay, we just like fit.
All my weirdos out there coming together.
Exactly. This is so the time of us Aquarians. So there's nothing freakish, or hell, if it is, then the rest of us catch up and become freakish the way that we can sometimes be. Anyway, I love that though. That is such a, and especially, you know, with dreams and things, especially if you're having it repetitively, you have to know it's more than a dream. I would definitely say, from what you're saying, that is a message from absolutely from spirit, and showing you, encouraging you, because remember as well, when we look at where we're at right now, I think all of us understand the energies and that sort of stuff. We've never, as a human species, been in this place before. We've always ended things or destroyed things, and then we have to start again. We get to this point, and so now we've actually moved over that precipice. We are navigating energies and frequencies that, as a species, we've never navigated before. So it's new for all of us, and this is why it's such a fun thing to be able to hold each other's hands through this. Laugh, know we've done all the training we need. We've got all the equipment, all the tools, all the everything that we need. And the main thing is that we've got to unify in love. Yeah. Love is unity, love and unity. So, you know, for us to unify as people, commune with each other, chat with each other, support each other's businesses, barter or trade with each other. It's just a beautiful time. I really think it's a time of transition. It's a time of change. It's amazing.
And so the black guy Orwin, what he can, and if you guys know of any off-worlders that look like that, like insect looking, but also humanoid with blue lips and kind of a gray face, but not a gray, they're benevolent. That's what he looked like. But Orwin, as I know his name now, he kept saying, like, you can't fail. Have courage and just go for it. And I know he was talking about the upgrading, the evolution of our spiritual, like literally, like that's what he was saying. It was almost like a basketball coach, like being like, just get out there and do it. You've done, you can do it. Like, you got this. Like, and we're here.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's super encouraging. And yes, you know, we've been told for many years by our friends that, you know, as we move beyond 2012, especially, so 2012 and beyond, we're going to start seeing things very differently. We're going to start waking up and realizing we've lived past lives and who we've been in past lives, and who, you know, what our real connections with each other is, you know, that is often so distorted, you know. We're going to think that our foe is really our true friends, stuff like that. So our perception changes, I think we wake up, and that's why this is called the Great Awakening. So we're all looking outside of ourselves to see, oh gosh, all this terrible stuff is happening, and we better wake up, and everyone else must wake up. We all need to wake up inside to what is really going on within us and the beauty that lies within us, and the memories we have, like, what you're saying, Bryce, and you're saying you can't fail. How can you fail? You've done this before. You have it in you. You know that. All you have to do is tap into that, and the way to do that is just to be quiet, switch off the switch of your mind, and just go, be still, breathe, exercise, go within, treat yourself in a beautiful way, take care of yourself, nurture yourself.
And the fact that they were very insistent that you, even when you feel alone, they were very clear, these three, that they had been with me my whole life, and I was never alone, and that they were protecting me. And that is, I think, a message to everyone. Like, you were, what does it say in the book of Esther? Perhaps you were made for such a time as this, and you got a team around you. And so, like, yeah, you're all badasses, and you've done this before, and just ride this roller coaster with grace and go for it, because you can't fail. You can't fail. And you've all got your own Orwins out there that are like standing around making sure that
guardian angels.
Yeah.
They're going to come to you in different shapes and forms and sizes. So there's this beautiful, presence that God will send to you in a different, whatever shape, form, or size, to show you that you're protected and loved and supported. And, whatever you identify with most strongly is what is going to be shown to you.
Yeah, I would love to add to this. If we speak, Chantelle, we speak a lot about the spirit vibrating in 99 dimensions and coming down to the third dimension. So a lot of times when I'm thinking about our guardian spirit guides or guardian angels, that they are actually just aspects of our own soul spirit, showing itself into whatever form needed, because I believe everything that happened and ever will happen, God is the Alpha, the Omega. So everything that ever existed exists right now. And we just choose like wherever we want to go. So it could be somebody, it could be you from a future, it could be you from a past life. Does it really matter? Not really. It's about what message are you getting out of it? What encouragement is getting out of it? Is it some outside force protecting you, or is it an inside force? Is it you manifesting on the outside force as a protection? And this is like a whole show in itself.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Whole show in itself. For sure. And it should be labeled, who is God?
What is this? What is this? Well, even the raw material says that when we decide to come down back into third density, which I think here's my little boy right here, my little dog just came to say hey, and then he walked away. Even when we, so the raw material says when we decide to come back down into third density, most of us, if we're wanderers, we were living in fourth, fifth, or sixth density, that we agree to come back. Not only are we going through the veil of amnesia, but we also know the third density is the density of not knowing, of like, because our brain is so limited. Our soul knows, but our brain is limited because we're in third density. And so I think that you're onto something, Mornay, where we have to kind of see things, like we talk about the drishti and yoga, we have to see things externally in order to understand the internal implications. And how cool is it though, that spirit, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, if a insect looking black guy with the gray head and blue lips came to me in Atlanta, Georgia, I would freak out. Like in my waking life, I'd be like, what is this? But the fact that they do this in your dream space so that you're in a place of accepting. And when I was in these dreams, when I have these conversations with these people I don't know, it's very calm, and it's almost like I know them, but I don't, it's like this very calm. So it's amazing how the spirit world, the higher self will allow you to understand things and learn things when you're in a place where it can be the least invasive to your nervous system as a third density being. So that just shows you that love really does.
Yeah, I believe we are multifaceted. We'll vibrate in multi dimensions. That's how amazing human beings are. I don't think the darkness has that much power as human beings. We actually vibrate in so many different dimensions. So we've got our back if we like open ourselves up and allow God to move through us. Now, for me, God is like the anonymous one. It's like God created everything perfect. It doesn't need to be like saying stuff here or doing stuff there, because everything is just flowing. It's just us. We need to go into that alignment. And then all these pieces of ourselves are guiding us back to ourselves. It's like it's amazing. Yeah, I think, and we're just remembering, and who knows what the truth is with these dreams and the beings outside. But I think human beings are amazing.
I think it's amazing, and I'd love to hear from our viewers as well. Leave us a comment. And I don't know, maybe Morna, you can just monitor that as we go along here. If you guys have had any experiences like that of recent, I'm going to say in the last 2 to 3 years especially, because I know that that has been the time that people have especially started waking up and realizing things, you know, from a much deeper level.
Yeah, for sure.
But without further ado, sorry.
The dark stuff.
Yes, I was going to say, now that we've spoken about that lovely thing, and let's all be aware of our dreams because they're very important, right?
Yeah.
Let's move on to another very interesting topic, which I know, guys, is a controversial one. So please, 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 as I said before, you know, this is just knowledge. We don't have to go into anything. We understand that there's sorcery and stuff in the stuff that we're speaking about, which is King Solomon, the keys of King Solomon, I think it is, right?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Solomon for the next couple of weeks, guys, because this is pretty big. And I know that this is going to trigger a lot of evangelical Christians, more fundamentalist based Christians. And again, I'm not asking you guys to accept my findings as fact. Even when I covered this on my channel, I said, you know, this is just information. So we know that King Solomon himself is kind of a hero in the Christian world, especially. But was he a wise king or was he a satanic tyrant? That's just kind of where I'm coming from with this, looking at this information that we have on him and his sorcery himself that he participated in. And some of these spell books are grimoires, which is what a spell book is. This is why the Freemasons praise Solomon. Okay, there's a reason why King Solomon is important to that organization. All right, and this also kind of butts heads with, in my own studies, I have realized that I've gotten a lot of information that the person we know as Jesus or Yahshua was not born Hebrew. Neither was Mary Magdalene. They were born Egyptian into the cult and the priest and priestesshood of Isis and Osiris. And this is just information that they have now, that is now starting to come out. It is what it is. Take it with a grain of salt. Again, just look at the information, pick free. We know that the Bible that we have now in our stores that we all have is a variation of the King James Bible, which we've talked about. King James, he was a Satanist. We know that most of the books of the Bible have been removed. So majority of the information that was given to us by Yahshua and Magdalene have been hidden under the Vatican. So we can't see it. And so this is so the story we have of Jesus is a very controlled narrative. It's a very controlled propaganda piece. We know that the churches in general are a part of the controllers. We know that. Doesn't mean your pastor is bad. It just means if you look at all the seminary schools, you follow the money, it all goes back to the same families that own the media, that own everything. Okay. So we have to be aware of that. And again, this does not mean I have a huge faith in God. I have a huge relationship with God and Yahshua and Magdalene. So this information is just information. It does not change my perspective of who God is. And I hope that the audience as well can kind of see that the Bible is just a book. That's all it is. People have asked me, well, do you believe the Bible is the word of God? Well, yeah, but we've never seen the Bible. It's under the Vatican. We've never seen it. None of us have. The complete
Bible, that is, yeah.
Yeah, we just see the control pieces that they've showed us, you know, and stuff.
You know, so, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that, actually, Bryce. I do.
And we can't be stupid about it. We can't just follow the leader. Following the leader, following what the church tells us is what got us into the situation in the first place. We can't rely on the experts. We have to be our own experts. We have to listen to our own gut intuition and do our own research. Because if we keep following the leader, we're going to end up right back where we were now, and like where we were in Atlantis, where we've given our sovereignty over to another organization, another person. And so that's what I want you guys to remember, is that there is a possibility that Joshua, Jesus, was not Jewish. He had Jewish disciples, yes, but he himself was not he was Egyptian. And so what does that say about the Old Testament?
Oh.
Was it a manipulation?
Well, interesting. Now, I mean, would that be, hang on, would you be saying that he had Egyptian blood in him?
No, he was raised in the priesthood of Isis and Osiris with Mary Magdalene. His mother, Mother Mary, was a high priest in the Isis. And what do they want us to think? Isis and Osiris were evil. That's what they teach us. But those were the religions that bled over from Atlantis.
Yes.
So there's a lot here, guys. We have to start understanding that everything we've been told is tainted. And so we have to reevaluate and relook. Now, we know the Freemasons have also tried to invert Osiris with the obelisk. They've tried to invert that as well. The steeple at a church allegedly is also them using the obelisk as well. So we have to just not be stupid. We have to have our eyes open. We have to practice discernment and understand that regardless of what the truth is about the Bible, does not change God, does not change the love, that the unconditional love that God has for his or her.
Absolutely.
There, we're all fractals of that. So this is just trying to understand where we've been programmed, where we've been brainwashed. I'm not saying anything negative about, I have beautiful friends who are Jewish. This has nothing to do with the Jewish faith and the people of the faith at all. Just like every faith in the world, it's all been manipulated, and it's all been, so I want to make that very clear. But we know that there is a narrative coming from, I'll be careful how I say this, from particular families about particular regions and faiths that have made it so we can't speak about that.
Yes.
And it's interesting that that is now tied into the Old Testament with the Christian churches as well. There's a bigger story here, in my opinion, looking at Solomon. So who was King Solomon? Let's just kind of give a brief intro to this dude. So he was David's son. Everybody knows the story of David and Goliath. He was the son of David and Bathsheba, which is a telenovela in itself. That's a very dramatic soap opera. It's in your Bible. There's some very juicy stories in there, regardless of whether they're true or not. They're juicy. So he was the son of David and Bathsheba. Now, King Solomon took the throne from David before David had passed away. And David was very, very sick. And so he went ahead and passed his kingdom over to Solomon. Now, the interesting thing is Solomon was not the oldest born son of David. Now, all of these guys in the Old Testament, one thing that's always really, really bothered me about a lot of these like men we venerate from the Old Testament is that they had many, many, many wives and concubines. I'm not okay with that. And even Joshua said in a lot of the missing gospels, he spoke on that and said, absolutely not. That is not in alignment with God to have multiple wives. First of all, it derails the balance between feminine and masculine. If we're looking at relationships, if you have multiple of one and one of the other, there's a derail in that balance. And also a lot of these women did not choose to be in the situation that they're in, especially the concubines. So what is that? That is sex, and then starts with a T. I won't say it. That's what that is. Okay. And Joshua in a lot of the missing books, again, was very insistent upon this, that it's two people in a relationship. Two. That's it. Two. Of free will. He even mentioned in the Gospel of the Holy 12 that they asked him about divorce. And he said, well, if there's no love, get divorced. Joshua was big when you have to love each other. There has to be love. There can't be force there. There has to be love there, which I agree with. So he was considered the last king of Israel, which we're going to get to. He was definitely a tyrant, and we'll get into why he was a tyrant. He ruled from 970 to 931 BC, respectively. Again, we're not totally sure on dates and stuff, but that's the dates we have. So Solomon again was brought to the throne around 20 years old when David was still sick and dying. He was not his oldest son. The name Solomon allegedly means peace. I'm not so sure about that. So the reason why David insisted on Solomon taking the throne was Solomon was the one son who carried out sacrifices.
Oh, wow.
In the temple. Now, most people.
How did that happen, though? I'd be very interested. I mean, if you're looking at him being the son of David, how did he
question David then? What was David? That's my question now. Are these bloodline families? I don't know. I don't know.
That would be my immediate thought, is that if he was carrying out sacrifices in the temples, how did he get to do that? Who put him in there? How come he was trained to do that? This kind of stuff can't go without the knowledge of parents or family, as we know by now.
It's family. And he was the one son. And people be like, oh, but it was just animals. Well, first of all, I don't care if it was just animals, because animals don't deserve that either. But second of all, I highly doubt it was just animals. I highly doubt it. Come on, guys. Like we know better than that now. And the other sons of David weren't doing this, weren't participating in this. Now, apparently there was an uprising between Solomon and some of his half brothers, but his mother, Bathsheba, and her group of men, bodyguards, whatever, squashed that. So obviously there was some violence going on with this family. So Solomon, apparently when the story is Solomon was this wise old king, and he's very wise. He was just this great ruler. He was fantastic. No, guys, he went to God. He prayed to God to help him be a ruler. And God said, what do you want? I think the God we're talking about is Lucifer now, not the God of light. And all Solomon wanted was wisdom. All he wanted was wisdom. And God said, well, you know what? Because you've done all these sacrifices, I'm going to give you a bunch of money, and I'm going to give you all these wives. Sounds a lot like a Luciferian.
That's how's that even, God? I mean, that's very Lucy-like. Lucy promises those kind of things.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you reread these stories, when you know, you're like, holy shit, this is bad. This is really bad. So he got his money, he got his wealth from overtaxing the people and overworking them, which we're going to get to with his books. He overtaxed them. So he was like Mr. B, like our president now, hiking the taxes up, taxing the crap out of the people so they could barely afford, so that his household had money. Now, he became, again, okay, so we all know the story. Now, this is something I want to bring up too. So we all know the story of Solomon. We heard about it in Vacation Bible School. We heard about it in Sunday school, where you had these two mothers. Speaking of Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day yesterday. These two mothers were fighting over a baby. One said she was the mother, the other said she was the mother. So they went to King Solomon to sort out who was the actual mother. So King Solomon had this wise idea to cut the baby in half. And the mothers who screamed out and cried, no, don't do that, he awarded her the baby because he knew that was the mother, because the mother didn't want the baby hurt. And we were taught in Vacation Bible School what a wise old man he was to do that. Obviously, the real mother wouldn't want that baby cut in half. Well, I don't know any human being that would want a baby cut in half, regardless of whether they were the mother or not. And I don't know one human being who wasn't a freaking psychopath who would even think of that as potentially being a solution. Like, that's a sick mind. Even if he had no intention of cutting the baby in half, that's a sick mind. That is sick. That is disturbing.
Like a cat playing with the prey.
Yes. And can you imagine the whoosh, the terror, the fear that came out of that mother when that option?
Yeah.
I mean, guys, talk about trauma. This dude was not good. He was not good, in my opinion. Okay. So King Solomon also allegedly, when we get into his spell books, he had a ring that was given to him by God, apparently. So this was in order for him to have control over the mastery of demons. Who wants to control demons? That's Solomon's seal, the seal of Solomon. The League of Demons are ruled by 7 princes, male, and Lucifer is the master. So apparently these are the demons that actually built Solomon's temple. Now David wanted the temple built first. Okay. Now let's talk about this ring in this. Now this also is where we get the Star of David. The flag of Israel. Okay. Now this is a hexagram. 6 points, supposed to be the most perfect, most balanced. Now Latin, we talked about this last week, that we had gotten in some channeling that Latin is demonic language and Sanskrit is light language. So they stole this symbol from the East. In the East, this is the Shatkona symbol. All right. In the East, and it literally is the merging of divine feminine and divine masculine. You'll see this with like the Om symbol inside, and that's the Shatkona. So Shat in Sanskrit is 6. And so we've said this before, this symbol itself isn't bad. Right? It started, everything in the world that we have to us was created by the light. There's the Shatkona. It was created by the light, by God. That's the balance of the male and the female. Females are downward running energy, aponic. Males are upward, divine feminine, divine masculine, which we know that that's what they've inverted. A lot of that's what the Shatkona means. The upward triangle is the pranic solar man, the downward is the aponic. And I will say too, for our friends out there who are homosexual, yes, it works the same in that relationship as well. There's always a masculine and feminine energy. We both carry all of these. So that's the balance of these two energies that were talked about in the East, right? You see a lot with especially the Hindu stories that for every Shiva, there's a Shakti. There's a female masculine, Osiris, Isis. This was normal in these older faiths. And so they took this and they inverted it. Now, this also gets us into what I've talked about this a lot on my channel. I'm sure you guys have talked about the Saturn, the Saturnalian Brotherhood, the 6th planet. We know they love the number 6, and it gets into like the cube of Saturn, the hexagram, which again, the word hexagram, to hex someone, that's Latin, that's dark. Shatkona, which is the real name of this, is the light language. And so I want to really make that clear for people that this did not start as bad. Solomon was part of the reason why this became bad. Now he built his temple he had demons built the temple, basically, is how the legend goes, by being able to control them through his ring and through his spell casting. The Masons honor Solomon as a sorcerer. They think he was like the greatest sorcerer that ever lived. And if the Freemasons are worshiping a sorcerer, we need to take a second look at this sorcerer, because what? And so he started to build this Solomon's temple, the first temple. Now within Solomon's temple was the Ark of the Covenant. And that is a whole mystery in itself, the Ark of the Covenant. But the Ark of the Covenant allegedly carried the 10 Commandments given to Moses. Now, if you guys do a little bit of research, just a little bit of research, Moses did not get those 10 Commandments on a mountain from God. Those 10 Commandments come from get this guys, the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Oh my goodness.
That was written long before Moses did his number on the mountain. So this is stolen, just like they do. This is what this group does. They steal shit. They invert it and they make it theirs. If you just do your research, it comes from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So now let's go back to the information we have on Joshua and Mary Magdalene. They were born in Egypt, in this faith where all this stuff had been stolen from this faith. And then after they died, they stole their story and put it in this other faith that's dark. And I've been saying this from my research, Christianity as a religion is looking a lot like Satanism, as one of my subscribers says. It looks like Satanism with a bow. Like there's a lot of stuff we're starting to see, like how have we been manipulated in the church, right? Who owns these churches? Follow the money of seminary schools. It's the same people that own medicine, that own the media. It's the same people. They're just puppeting people, propaganda. Okay, so do your research. All right, now let's talk about the temple. So we have 2 temples that have been around thus far. Well, guess who's going to be building the 3rd temple? The Freemasons of Solomon. And I don't know if I sent you pictures of this or not, Mornay, but if I didn't, guys can just Google it. If you Google and look at Freemason temples, and then you Google and look at King Solomon temples, they're identical. Wow. They're identical. And so we have this Ark of the Covenant in this temple that's stolen from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And what are they doing in front of the Ark of the Covenant? They're performing sacrifices. I don't want to be associated with this. Like, I don't want to have a faith associated with this crap. Like, this is awful. All right, so let's get into the Key of Solomon and the Lesser Key of Solomon. So I know you just pulled up the picture of the 72 demons. So we're going to start talking about the 72 demons that were allegedly under Solomon's control. I don't want to control demons. I just want them to go away. So here are the 17. Now, this is something that's super interesting. I know this is going to trigger people, but again, knowledge is power, guys. So Baal, we know of Baal, King Baal. Everybody knows who Baal is. Well, guess what the name for Baal was back in this time? Yahweh.
Wow.
Yahweh. So we sit here saying, oh, Yahweh, that's God. No, guys, that's Satan. Yahweh, Satan. Jehovah, we're going to get in Jehovah next week with the Grand Grimoire, is one of the demons in here, Jehovah. So we have been manipulated like crazy. All right, so let's talk about the Key of Solomon. So again, the Key of Solomon, the first book we're going to talk about is, again, a book of spells. It's a grimoire book of spells. So this book is divided into 2 sections. And they tell you in this, now the Key of Solomon, I don't find to be as potent as the Lesser Key of Solomon. Okay, because again, with spirituality, and Shanti and Mornay know this, I'm sure a lot of our viewers know this, when it comes to spirituality, there are similarities between the darkness and the light, but it's the intention, right? It's the intention behind it as to what's going to happen, whether it's going to be black magic or light working, right? And so when we look at the Key of Solomon, it's basically a manual for spell casting. That's all it is. And so the legend states that these books were written by Solomon for his son Rehoboam. Now, Rehoboam was the king of Israel that actually split Israel into 2, into the kingdom of Judah and then the tribes that ran north and said, screw you guys, we're going to do our own thing. Now we are taught that Jesus comes through the kingdom of Judah. But now we know Jesus was actually Egyptian, did not come from King David. He was Egyptian. So was his mother. So was Magdalene and her parents. They were not from this kingdom. So that in itself is a lie. Okay. So Rehoboam himself took the throne at 41. Now, this is interesting. So this is what kind of started the split of the 2 nations. There was another dude named Jeroboam who had been exiled to Egypt because he stood up to King Solomon when King Solomon was taxing the crap out of the people. He wanted King Solomon to stop taxing them, to have fair labor laws, because King Solomon was working his people like slaves, and fair wages. And because he asked for that from King Solomon exiled him to Egypt. Talk about a psychopath, narcissistic psychopath. Okay, so once Rehoboam becomes king, Jeroboam comes back and comes to Rehoboam and says, hey, dude, like, we can't do this anymore. You can't tax the people like this. You're killing your people. Rehoboam gets all pissy and basically follows in his dad's footsteps, does a few more sacrifices, to Lucifer. And then a bunch of the tribes of Israel revolted and went north to create their own territory, which again, we were kind of taught in Sunday school backwards, that it was the Judah that was good and the people that went north were bad. No, the people who ran north were like us. They wanted freedom. They wanted fairness. And they basically gave the middle finger to these satanic rulers and decided to do their own thing. So we have to rethink everything. Everything is inverted. Everything is inverted. Okay.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that that's coming up regarding this as well, because I speak about this so often on whatever platform or channel we're chatting about. It really is what you're saying. Everything is inverted. Yeah. They have not only, seriously, do we only think that they've taken the Christian cross and turned that upside down? No way. They've taken everything and inverted it and hoodwink people into believing that that is the only way. Bryce, you used a beautiful analogy before the show started about talking about the very thing, where you were saying about there are so many different trees in the forests growing in different places, different types of trees, but we are all, and all the trees are reaching for the same light.
Mm-hmm.
So many different ways to speak God's word,
Yeah.
you know, and in so many different languages, you know, we say the same thing, but in different languages. And that's a beautiful thing for me, that we can do that, and that we start recognizing that. And that, please, we can just start letting this judgment and the sense of superiority go, you know, that there's only one superior religion, and that's the one we all have to follow. There are so many of those rules that are man-made, and they just don't sit well with me.
Me
In fact, they are just simply indigestible.
Yeah, it's another way to divide people, and we're all God's children. We all carry that light. I mean, that's why if you read the Apocryphon books, which the Apocryphon books get into like the Sophia, all that kind of stuff that I'm covering on my channel that I told you about before we started filming, they tell you why, specifically why the Lucys do the type of rituals they do. And it's because Lucifer can't create a divine spark. And so he needs to feed off of a divine spark. That's why they do the rituals they do, because they need to feed Lucifer what we have that Lucifer, and that's the divine spark. And that doesn't matter if you grew up Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Buddhist, whatever. You have a divine spark. That's what matters. That's your fractal of God.
That's what gives you life. That's what enables you to walk around in a body.
Yeah, and smile.
When that divine spark goes, you can't breathe. Blood stops flowing, your heart stops beating. You're by the mere fact that you are alive, breathing, your heart is beating, you're walking around, you are an active divine spark. Everyone. It's impossible not to be. So whether you're Chinese, Portuguese, Jewish, Russian, Ukrainian, Polish, African, South American, Indian, whatever, you cannot exist without having been brought into creation without the divine spark, which means we are one. All of us.
We are one. Absolutely.
So, and anyone who thinks that is not, honestly, guys, the time for thinking that these, you know, it's about listening and understanding and integrating what that really means.
Yeah.
And so many of us say the words. Exactly. We say the words, but we don't apply it. We don't let it sink in. So then it just becomes rhetoric and blah, 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 blah. But when we start applying it and you understand, what does it mean to be one with that person? What does that actually mean when we say we are one?
Yeah. It's, you know, Sri Swami Satchidananda made a point in his commentaries on the Yoga Sutras where he talks about when you start to discover your own soul, you start to really feel and pay attention to your own soul, that something magical happens where once you discover your own soul, you start to see the soul in other people too. And you stop wanting to hurt other people. You stop wanting to tell people they're wrong. You want to love them. And so, and I think that because I get attacked a lot from fundamentalist Christians, a lot. And I know that they're scared. I know what I've said has triggered them, and that's why they're projecting their own anger on me. I'm fine. And God and I are good. Like, I'm good with God. Like, we're good. And I just think, oh, bless your heart, you're terrified. You haven't found that within you that is also within me too. Because if you had found that, you wouldn't be reacting the way you are. You would just feel love. You would feel love.
And recognition and the sense of, wow, I'm so joyful that we can have a conversation about something similar. Isn't that amazing? So, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Bryce, but it's just like, as we, you know, it's like, as you saying that, how many times haven't we heard on this channel from people saying, wow, I think I finally found my family. I can speak to no one in my family or friendship circles. But yet, yeah, we have the ability to connect and share and have groups and Facebook groups and Telegram groups and whatever else where we can talk and share and find a platform where we are connecting in that way. I mean, I really think that is amazing. You know, I think that is the Great Awakening is beautiful.
And you can still be a Christian and know that King Solomon was a Satanist.
Yes.
You can still be a Christian and know that the Bible is manipulated.
Yes.
You can still be a Christian and know the name Jesus means hail Satan, and that wasn't his actual name. Joshua was his name. The J didn't even exist back then. Like, you can still be a Christian and understand where the controllers have done their bidding. Does that make like you? So I want people to know that if you feel like you can't be a Christian by accepting that King Solomon was probably a psychopath, then you're in a cult.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not in a spiritual practice, you're in a cult, right?
That's what I was saying. You know, this is our history. It's the history of our planet. We can't change it. And us discussing these topics doesn't make us Satanists. It really just makes us aware. So, and to have our opinions doesn't mean we are Satanist either. We have a different opinion. And I think that's the beauty of it all, because the one thing that Jesus taught us over and over and over and over and over and over is non-judgment. And yet I'm afraid I see that strongly in Christianity, is the judgment. There's a lot of judgment there. And I mean, and I don't say all Christians are judgmental. I'm sorry that we all humans, I'm sorry, are judgmental. We are judgmental. It is a human condition. Whether we are conscious of it or not is a different story. And whether we, you know, when we can step back and look at it and understand we're being judgmental now, but that's really because we are still judging ourselves for things we haven't forgiven ourselves for, actually. And when that unhealed wound is alive and active inside of you, of course you're going to go out there and meet people and situations who match that in you. Yeah. So, you know, when you really get to the place of being okay, you might not like or approve. Doesn't mean you've got to send your child to that person's house to play every day or whatever. You don't need to even associate with them if that's what you want. But don't have to beat them down and beat them, because that is really a reflection of yourself, isn't it?
Well, I want to say there's a difference between giving critical commentary and judging. So like I'm going through Debbie Pearl's book, How to Be His Helpmeet, on Zublik's channel. And I'm very critical of that book because that book promotes domestic violence. She promotes women being subservient. She promotes this idea of women not, I mean, this is coming from a deeply disturbed fundamentalist group where men can sometimes even control what their women eat. You know, like, this is a very dangerous book. And that's my critical commentary, is telling women this is not, and I've said before, Debbie Pearl and I are not worshiping the same God, because the God I believe in would never want a woman living like that. You know, and so being critical and having commentary over somebody's work is not judging in that way. It's just showing where you disagree and pointing out points that are dangerous for women too. So I want to point that out. And that's what we're doing with Solomon right here. We're pointing out the obvious now in order for you for people to free themselves. And there's this great quote that people say, if you need religion to teach you right from wrong, you don't need religion, you need morals. A 2-year-old knows right from wrong, and they don't even know what religion is. You know? So let's get back to that inner knowing instead of the outer telling us. Because there's a Gandhi quote that I love where he said, I like your Christ. I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. Yeah. And so when I would, you know, there's that what would Jesus do thing. Like, for the people, the fundamentalists out there, half of what's being taught in your churches are not what Jesus would even teach. You know, he said, love each other as I have loved you. Love thy God with all thy heart. You know, he had in the Gospel of the Holy 12, there's a scene where a woman is sitting at his feet listening to him talk, and her sister comes up and is like, hey, you know, Betty Joe, you got to get in the kitchen and help me cook. And Jesus stops them and says, no, her place is not in the kitchen. It's here. She's just as worthy as the men to hear this. Look at the Magdalene who anointed Jesus? Magdalene did. You don't anoint somebody. You only ask somebody to anoint you that you feel is spiritually superior to you. He asked Magdalene to do it, not Peter, not John, not Philip, Magdalene. He asked her to do it. And so when we're looking, we have to start looking at the actual teachings of the Christ, and not what the church has programmed into us through this manipulative manipulative.
We know that the Vatican has had control of all the religious teachings on this planet. We know that the Vatican really controls our lives. We know that when you're looking at all of this stuff that's been coming to the surface, that literally the Vatican owns us. We understand that, right? So what, for 1 second do we think that the Vatican is not going to control the narrative of what we learn and what we don't learn? And of course, we understand the Lucy's are highly, highly, highly deceptive and manipulative. So they're going to deceive and control in the most delicious ways that we aren't even aware of.
Yes.
So that's why I also keep saying, Bryce, it's at this time we're waking up. We've got to meditate. We've got to pray. We've got to sit in a dark place with ourselves and Christ, with God, with the source, our creator, and practice discernment and amp up our intuition, because your intuition or your Christ consciousness awareness, okay, or the voice of God, your intuition is the voice of God, really needs to be very finely tuned at this point. So we have to practice using it, because that's how we're going to get ahead right now.
Exactly. And I will say, with the whole Solomon thing, using your discernment, guys, if that didn't give you any pause for concern, when we get over into the lesser keys of Solomon, we're talking about actual demonology, and you're using demons to do your bidding, basically. Now you have.
What does that mean? How do you use a demon to do your bidding? I'm sorry.
We're going to get into it. Teaches you how to do curses. So if you're mad at someone, you can call in a demon to do a curse on someone. This is what I laughed at when I read it, because they can show you how to locate items, because I lose my keys all the time, but I don't need to summon a demon to help me find my keys. Thank you very much. I can just retrace my steps. I can just talk to old Orwin, my God, and be like, dude, I lost my keys again. Where are they? So
give me a clue, just a tiny clue. I just want to have a clue.
Help them. Like that's, I don't need a demon to help me, but I was like, oh, I laughed when I saw that, because we have some serious stuff here, and I was like, locate items. Was Solomon losing his keys too? Like, what was going on? How to become invisible. That's one of the spells, which I said this on my channel. We know people can astral travel. People can do that. I think we all have the ability to do that. I know people who know how to astral travel or astral view. They can bring themselves into rooms and not be seen. Now, I have laughed in my life and said, oh, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation or whatever. But guys, if you know how to astral travel or be invisible, don't go spying on people. That's like total violation of free will and privacy. Like,
that's a privacy violation 101, actually. I mean, I think if anyone, but there again, we know that the Lucy's can they have access to these powers and they use them. But again, anyone within their power or within their strength and walking in the light of the source will not do that.
No.
It's like we know that we're invisible. We're not hiding, but we're hidden. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's not for me, I would never access that to try and peekaboo on someone at bath time or something. I really have no interest in that whatsoever. And
could you imagine? If I knew someone was spying.
No.
Or a cheating lover.
Oh my goodness.
I was thinking about, like, there are some nights where you're just not feeling your cutest and you're just laying in bed, bloated, watching a movie. Like, how would you like it if somebody was like some hot guy or was like invisible, like watching you like pick your nose? Like, come on, guys. Like, do unto others as you would have been done unto you. Everybody deserves their
But that's why I say I think that type of things, because again, remember, if we look at it like this, you see, I love to look at it like this. When we're looking at God's creation, because God has created for us the ability to be invisible without hiding. In other words, just by raising our frequency, we are without dissolving into infinity, we are automatically invisible to certain things. It's something that you understand through spiritual awareness. Now, these guys have now taken that understanding and manipulated the frequencies to that extent that you can now put on a cloak and now you're invisible. So that's not God's work. I agree. That would be really manipulating something to your advantage, because you can then do things to unsuspecting people who are not consciously and knowingly giving their permission, that you're sitting in my living room on my windowsill, peeking through the window at me, picking my nose and doing whatever, which is just rude, you know. So there's a difference between that and raising your frequency to the point that you know you are unseen to the evil forces. That's what I'm saying.
Well, and think about what they're
at the right time. You meet the right people at the right moment. You dodge that bullet by an inch. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's like that. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, and think about what they're doing too with speaking of invisibility, we all know that they're watching us through our laptops, through our cell phones. Yes. That's another form of a spell casting through invisibility, is through technology. And we know, that was one thing people said, that the clergy.
Should we say hi to them on this note? Should we just say hi?
Have fun in your prison cell. Sucks to be you. So we're moving on up.
I always say, if you want to look, you can look, but you're not allowed to touch.
You say you can look, but it's probably off.
You can go as long as you don't come into my space. You're not doing anything. You're not allowed to, you can spy all you want. I don't care.
The FBI agent assigned to me is probably super bored right now. They're like, this chick never leaves her house. She goes to the grocery store, she takes her dog out, and she goes, that's it. Like, I'm so bored.
I'm so tired of seeing her in a yoga pants doing yoga every day.
She's so sweaty all the time. Like, I'm so bored. Can I not follow, a mafia person? That'd be way more exciting than this chick.
I want to do something with it. She's not giving me any opportunities.
He's like, come on, buy something other than fruits and vegetables. No, so bored. But we think about that. I mean, I have a camera that my mother gave me to watch my dog, because my dog does have anxiety. You guys probably have heard him like moving around. And so even at his age, I still have to put him up in the bathroom when I go. And he's only by himself like once a week. He's not even by himself for that long. But my mom got me a camera to set up so I could practice leaving him alone in the house to see if he would do anything or have a freak out. I won't even set that up, because I know they can use stuff like that to look into your home. And it's just like, but this is where, and people said when I was studying this, that the Key of Solomon, the Lesser Key of Solomon, not surprisingly, is studied and used by the clergy. The clergy studies this. They didn't specify whether it was just Catholic. They just said clergy. So,
well, I think there are many, many similar Catholic rituals to what the Lucy's do. I don't know what they are, guys. Don't shoot the messenger here, please. But I've heard that from several people, like a lot of the rituals that the church does, I think, if memory serves me, are very similar to a lot of what the dodgy ones do. But there again, it might not be dodgy at all. It's again, the intention, one or two tiny little tweaks here and there, and you've got a completely different flavor, right? I mean, think about that,
Yeah, if you're like people ask me a lot about spell casting. Listen, if you are doing any spells that are going to infringe on somebody else's free will, then that's bad. Because the next thing we have is love potions. Don't do love spells on people. You might think that's innocent, but Lord have mercy. I would rather be alone than laying next to a man in bed, knowing he was only there because I, love spell.
Because he's lost his senses and he's been zombied out.
That would feel really shitty. I would feel really shitty. I mean, I would rather be alone than not.
I think honestly, we have come to a place where we don't do spells anymore. We don't do like earth magic, water magic, black magic, white magic. We don't do that anymore. We've come to a place where it's not about the 3D world and we need to manipulate and try to understand. And I think we've come to a place where we're going now to the 5D, where it's like we need to alchemy, inner alchemy, like Chantelle would say. It is now about
be receptive and
the heart needs to alchemize.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think I said this last week. I'm not sure what show I said this on. When you're looking at, because I've had to study this a lot. I've never casted spells in my life, guys. I would be the worst witch ever, because I'd be like, wait, what? I don't know what to do. Does my outfit look okay? You know, I'd be like, do I get a cool cape? Like, what?
Is this the white candle?
Is this the right hat? Like, I don't know. Like, I would be too paranoid about looking cute for the spell casting than actually do. So I'd be a terrible witch. But you know, when you talk about spell casting, or especially when it comes to mind control, because we can talk about it that way, like what the media does, propaganda, that's all forms of spell casting. It messes with your mind. They can't touch the heart, though. And so when people are under spells, sometimes there's a lot of cognitive dissonance, because the brain has been told to think one way, the psychosis, but the heart is always going to be in the truth. Yeah. And so that's why we see a lot of people going a little bit crazy, because it's spell casting. And yeah, just don't do it. Like, if you're going to do stuff to like ask for your own healing or all that kind of stuff, that's fine. Don't even ask for healing for other people unless they ask you permission or give you permission, because we always want to honor people's own boundaries and their own, you know, we love the Lucys. The Lucys love to control the world.
And they love to manipulate.
And I can't even control my dog on a leash. So I am not one, like, I don't want to control people. I'm like, that is just too much work. That is too much.
Exactly. Well, yeah.
Jesha was like a perfect spellcaster without doing spells, because he was just walking his truth, walking in the light of God, speaking his truth, like the word spell. He was just like living that truth. And that's why it's so much healing power and so much authenticity. So I think that's where we need to go right now. It's just, that's how we raise our frequency. Okay, yes, we can use smudge now and again, or crystal now and again, but I think we are past that now, and we need to get to that place where we just like shine our light. And
it's an automatic thing. Yeah, I agree.
There's no destruction with that. Jesus never had any destruction. There was never like hurting anybody. There was never taking anybody's choices away from them. Respecting, the Sophia Code goes into that, respecting sovereignty of people, that you are spiritually sovereign. In the Sophia Code, she talks about even your spiritual DNA. We know our DNA, there's no one like us. We are very unique. Even your spiritual DNA is very unique. There's no one spiritually like you either. We're all have that sovereign spirituality, and that's one thing we need to respect.
Absolute uniqueness, yes.
And I feel like if you're whole within yourself, if you have that sense of self, then other people you're not gonna want to control other people, because you have your own power. You don't need to.
You don't mess with them, and they don't mess with you. It's again, then you attract into your life the people who've understood that, and you all just live awesome lives, connect with each other, and supporting and serving when you need to, and it's just a beautiful thing. Wow.
Yeah. Now we'll give one warning for anybody, because like I said with the Necronomicon, also there's necromancy in this book as well. They like their dead people. It's a little weird, but so the Lesser Key of Solomon, I'm going to give you guys a little warning. Now, I'm not about censorship. So if you want to buy the book and read it yourself, then that is your choice to do it. However, allegedly, shadow men come with each book. So kind of like the Necronomicon that we talked about last week. If you have the Lesser Key of Solomon, you're probably going to have some stuff happening in your house. Just warning you. And if you've never dealt with shadow people, I have. They're quite annoying and they're quite freaky, and they can cause havoc. So just be careful, is all I'm saying, guys. Just be careful. So next week we'll get into the next book of Solomon's spell books.
I love all these like creepy things.
I just wanted to add with the whole Solomon and Jesus in Egypt. And I know there's lots of stories that connect to that. And I mean, Horus is also like son of the god, Virgin Mary. A lot of Egyptian mythology goes into the Christian mythology. And what I know and understand is that the Romans took the knowledge from the Jews and the knowledge from the Egyptians and the pagans, and they started creating their own little thing under the rule of law and order.
Yeah.
So there's a whole thing happening over there, and it all mixes and matches. But at the end of the day, I just want to go back to God, and God being like everything and everywhere. If you deny one part of history or one theory or one aspect of life or anything in the world, you deny a part of God. So don't you even think God had a plan in this manipulation? As the dark side was doing the manipulation.
I know
Don't
we're
think
going to be
God put some little truth bombs here and a truth bomb there and a little thing there. I think God was so much aware of what's going to happen with us and our
I
free
think he's
will.
giggling at us right now. I was talking about Solomon and eating his popcorn like, now y'all are figuring it out. Well, actually, it's interesting. I know we're going to talk about in a few weeks, we're going to get into like Tartaria and stuff, but there is a theory that when the mud floods came, the controllers created all these different religions to keep us fighting. And before that, every human on the earth, like, was in the same faith, like, because we knew everything. We were given all the information. So that'll be interesting to talk about.
Yes, I was about to tell our viewers to prepare themselves, but we're going to be doing that over on the Solutions channel in 2 or 3 weeks from now. Bryce and I are starting. We're going to be talking about Tartaria. So we're going to do a little series on Tartaria on Wellness Wednesday. It'll be 2 or 3 weeks from now, but we'll keep you posted. But that is super, super interesting. And really, I mean, when you look into that and you see the lies we've been told and the whole civilizations who lived before us and the amazing stuff that they created and left for us, but has been destroyed and taken over by everything that is destructive as opposed to constructive. So the opposite. We've been living in this inertia of energy for a very long time. That these guys, because they know where all the powerful ley lines and portals and things are on the planet, they harness those energies and they do with them nasty things. Yeah. So let's hope we're at the end of that time now.
We are. I think we are.
Excited to be talking to Bryce about that in future, guys. So really, really happy. Bryce, as always, such a beautiful pleasure to have you chatting with us, really enjoying the topics. And as we say, you know, this is information. Don't take it in the sense that we're forcing anything on you or that we agree with what's been done. Not at all. This is information out there and you're welcome to go and research it yourself first. Absolutely. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Knowledge is power.
Indeed.
And we're powerful. Thank you guys. I love you both very much.
Guys. Lots of love. We'll see you very soon.